Becky offers her hand, and Belair's reluctant, but they shake hands and they hug. And this looked to be the Becky turn. Like, that's what it felt like. I don't think this should just be kind of, this was an in the moment, because then they shot this angle after that certainly suggests Becky is coming out of this as a babyface.
It looks like we have ended the Becky Lynch heel run.
You got your year as this character, Becky, and she was very good, but she's a better babyface.
More importantly, you got your two big stadium main events with Bianca Belair, with a worthy opponent for Bianca Belair. And coming out of it, Bianca Belair won both of those big matches. She is a much bigger star coming out of this feud. Becky Lynch, I think, has exceeded all of her expectations when, it came time for her to be announced as a heel. She's reinvented herself and continued to reinvent herself week after week. And I'm interested to see now as a babyface what elements of this sort of big time Bex character that she retained.
She can take a lot from this character, and it will work as a babyface.
Yeah.
So Becky exits the ring, and Belair is there celebrating when Bayley makes her return. And she comes out, and we should mention, this aisle to walk to the ring was gigantic.
Huge.
It was like a 2-minute walk for these people to make it to the ring. So it's a long walk for all. Like, I would love to add up like the entrance times that we devoted on this broadcast. It was just like such a long walk. So Bayley comes out. She's only going like midway here, and she's yelling, "Do you remember me?" And as she's standing there, she is followed by the returning Dakota Kai, who comes out. And then if that's not enough, we get Iyo Sky, who Jimmy Smith first does identify as Iyo Sky, but it appears she is coming back as Iyo Sky, which will be her new name. And the three of them stand side by side, and then they enter the ring with Belair by herself when Becky returns, standing shoulder to shoulder with Belair. And we get Becky chants, and Becky's challenging them to bring it on, but the three stand down and leave. And this Raw Women's Division just got a gigantic injection of stories, of talent, and just, we were talking about what's Bianca going to do after this. And we were they did the Alexa Bliss tease. Now, all of a sudden, Belair's got programs through next year. There was just so much that came out of this. And, the call up of Shirai, the return of Kai, and this is probably one of the most positively received segments of the entire show.
This was the type of thing that I think you would have expected to see on the Raw after WrestleMania, or the New Year's Dash, after a Wrestle Kingdom. Like, this is sort of like the big move that a company would do to completely reinvigorate a division after telling your year-long closing stories. In this case, they managed to do it at the end of this match on the pay-per-view in the first segment, and rightfully so. Maybe at the end of the culmination of the year-long story that Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch and the women's division by extension has been telling this entire year. And in this case, I felt like the message was very clear. This was Triple H letting us all know that he was now in charge. His biggest contributions, I would say, to like the main roster up until this point has been the cultivation of this women's division that he's developed, from like Paige and Emma to the four horsewomen on. And this felt like this was his calling card being brought up to the main roster, complete with the person that nobody expected to return here in somebody like Dakota Kai that they just released, going as far as to bring her back, not just onto Raw in some no-name role. She is brought on to SummerSlam, okay? Walking out after Bayley. Now, the order of these walkouts I found very significant too, because Bayley for sure is somebody that everybody recognizes. She comes out, gets the big pop. Dakota Kai, less so. And I would say Iyo Sky as well, less so. They didn't get the biggest reactions. But online, they got the biggest reactions. And coming out of this, they will get the biggest reactions because, again, they are very much, to me, representatives of the new regime of Triple H. And, Bayley really is too, but hers was expected. The others were not. And to me, they were complete decisions that Vince McMahon would never have made.
Do you like the Iyo Sky name change?
I don't mind it. You know, everybody's going to get up in arms every single time we have a wrestler come up from NXT over to the main roster to change the name. At this point, I think we've come to expect it. We know that they want to control IP. I mean, maybe there's some instance here of them not really liking a Japanese name. I don't know. I would imagine that Iyo Shirai herself had something to do with the choosing of this name. I think you could do a whole lot worse than Iyo Sky. I think it actually is kind of cool.
Fine. Like you have the genius of the sky. So
Yeah.
like, you know, it ties in with the I had no issue with this. I'm generally not as averse to a lot. Like some of the names are just completely goofy, but they're just like we get used to them so quickly. So
There's nothing wrong with Iyo Sky. On top of this, they are making a point of capitalizing this name so that when you write it, it has to be capital IYO space capital SKY. The same way you have to capitalize Kenta, the same way you have to capitalize, you know, like I guess Walter, you know, at one time, or Evil, you know, like they're keeping that tradition. And you know what? That just makes it cooler for some reason. So you just kind of give me that little like weirdness about it, and I'm all in.
Capitals, I'm fine for my formatting. Mansoor and Masse, those, dude, I literally have to go Google them and then copy and paste them when I'm writing their names for stories. So the three, so this ended the segment. This was like a great reminder of, you know, a show like this, you start off by giving the audience something great. Mm-hmm. It's like, they were in a great mood from the beginning. And I think that really transferred to other stuff on the show that maybe you could have gone either way. But I think you started off where it was a glass half full type of response that the crowd was going to have.
I was ready like to brew a whole pot of coffee, you know, after this first match for the rest of the show. And I didn't exactly need it because like my energy was way up after this first segment. And like you mentioned, John, completely reinvigorates the Raw Women's division. Now you have Becky Lynch and Bianca
Belair. Matches that you've got just with like Shirai, like
between these five, any of these five that we saw in the last segment with Becky on the babyface side of things. Now we got a hot new faction, and we have a hot new tag team on the babyface side. And Belair and Bianca can, you know, incorporate another babyface to rise them up potentially to their level.
Yeah, like Shirai to me was like the top of the list, and the amount of matches that she can have, and sustainable ones as well that you hope like pairing with Asuka, stuff with Charlotte. Like there's just all these new ways of where you can go, and Belair has just it's tremendous now, the potential that you have, and a story that links it all to, that you have to explain now with Bayley, like how she recruited these two. There's all these great options that you have.
Part of me wondered if, like, you know, especially when it was 3-on-1 with Belair alone, part of me wondered if like this would have been a place for Sasha and Naomi if they like. I have no idea like where talks are, well, you know, as far as that goes. But I wondered if the audience was thinking the same thing too. But I don't think anybody was disappointed that those two didn't show up, you know, after this.
I'll tell you, like that would have been kind of like that. This kind of segment was designed to get that kind of reaction from people, and it would be a natural that you would want those two in that role. That would, you know, accomplish the same message. And you know, we'll see if they can. Like that is the ultimate kind of fan service move: is you reconcile things with those two, and they come back, and they are like that. Really is a sign of things are going to be done differently. And these two are representative of that by being on the inside and not on the outside.